What's up, vapors? Thanks for checking out Spinfuel's Daily Vape TV. My name is Nick, and it's vlog round 2. I'm bringing you tonight my second edition of my vlog. If you watch the first one, you get the gist of things, how this works. Basically, I'm just gonna I have a whole list of topics to talk about, and feel free to join in the comments if you feel like discussing anything below. I'll make sure to reply to you with any questions or anything like that. So first of all, before we get started, I just want to give a little bit of information about me. Last time I kind of, jumped the gun a little bit with the whole topics thing, and I did really want to give you guys a little bit of background information about myself personally. So my name is Nick. I am from Western Massachusetts. I'm 28 years old. I've been vaping for 3.5 years, and prior to that, I was a smoker for 7 years. I couldn't be any happier with the way things are going. I work at a vape shop in Springfield, Mass. Called Voltage Vape Shop. Obviously, I work for Spinfuel e-magazine. I do my own YouTube channel, obviously. And yeah, I have a pretty successful blogs, like the history about how I got into YouTube and everything. Basically, I started a blog and I kind of lost interest after a few months or so, but I did have a few successful posts on there. So I kind of got the inspiration to do it again once I found out about rebuildable dripping atomizers. I wanted to kind of tell other people my experiences with them and everything like that, and all the latest products on the market that I managed to pick up. So I ended up starting another blog, and that really took off for me. Within about a month or so, I had like 400 followers, so I decided I was going to make a YouTube channel. And from there, the rest is kind of history. I kind of blew up after that, after going to VCCNE, where I met John and Smokin' Joey from Spinfuel. So that's basically my brief history of, YouTubing and what I'm all about. If you guys have any other personal questions about me or anything like that, feel free to shoot me a line at dailyvapetv@gmail.com, or just mention it in the comments below. And if it's not too personal, I'll feel free to answer that as well. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Just gonna have a quick vape real quick. So yeah, let's get into what I'm vaping on this week, what I've been testing, what I've been reviewing, and all that stuff. So as of right now, my current setup, I'm using the continuous current Manhattan V2 with a competition Kennedy and a Half Moon acrylic drip tip. These things are pretty sweet, and I do want to give a huge shout out to J.R. Murphy for making these things. These are awesome. I have a whole bunch of them. These are normal drip tips right here. I have this little purple one and this like zombie kind of green and red. And that's just a couple of them. I have like 4 or 5 of them already, and they are amazing hand-turned tips. He makes them all by hand, which is awesome. Big props to him, and again, huge shout out for getting me some of these tips. That's one of my setups. The other one, I have a LE Rig Mod matte black edition. It doesn't really show up. There we go on the camera. LE matte black rig mod with the roughneck to match it. This one I'm using some MBYC from Sick Boy, and in my Manhattan V2 I've got some Shock and Awe, and there's a reason why I'm using the Kennedy. Actually, I'm in the process of I'm about to do a review on these two bad boys right here for you guys. I have every single cap they make currently. I will be doing a full review on those soon, as well as a cap comparison, if you will. So yeah, stay tuned for that video. It's coming shortly. I'll be sure to get you guys that video as soon as possible. I've got a bunch of other setups that I'm running also. I do want to mention the triumphant return of the flavor review setup. You guys saw it in my latest flavor review from Suicide Bunny. I do have a new Ego 1 and Kanger Sub Tank Nano, and again another Half Moon drip tip on top as well there. This thing will be my flavor review setup. I was talking about it right when I got it, and I absolutely fell in love with this thing. Just for the simple fact that it produces quite a bit of vapor considering its size and everything like that. So I will be using this from now on for all my flavor reviews. This is obviously not the same one that I had before that was stolen. Unfortunately, I still don't have that back. A little update though, one of the girls that was there that day did come back to the shop and leave me a little note that basically said, I'm really sorry that she did that. I didn't know that she was that type of person at the time and blah, blah, blah. So I give her a little bit of credit, but I would still really like to see whoever took my mod to actually fess up and bring it back to me. But that's, who knows what's going to happen with that. Let me just show you a little vapor production shot just off of this little guy. Not too shabby. Gotta say, not too shabby. So that's kind of why I've wanted to use it for my flavor reviews. I ditched the original tank that it came with because it's just not enough airflow for me personally. I like a little bit more airflow, and that's definitely what the Subtank Nano provides for me. A lot of people were complaining that the subtanks leak and all that, but I really think it's kind of a user error, if you will. I've never had any problems with it personally. So yeah, that's pretty much my setups. I have a bunch of mods kicking around. I'm still using the Evic VT with the Tugboat V2 on top with my temp control setup, but not nearly as much as my other mechanicals, especially lately with the whole testing thing with the Kennedys and everything. I've been sticking with those, and my rig mon is really my cloud chasing build, so that's what I've been using at the shop to kind of show off a little bit. So anyways, let's move on. I got some shout outs. Make sure if you guys want a shout out, just send me an email, dailyvapetv@gmail.com, and I'll be sure to shout you out on my next vlog. If you do leave a comment, I might not get to it if I don't see it. So the place to go is just shoot me an email at dailyvapetv@gmail.com, and that's how you can get a shout out from me. All right, so I do want to give a huge shout out to everyone that watches my show on Friday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. on vapors.tv/NEV. Everyone that's watching that show, really, huge shout out to everyone. Bab, Mowgli, Demetra, everyone. I know most of those people by their screen names, and it's really hard for me to put a face to a name because I do know some of them that are in the New England Vapors group. Huge shout out to everyone in New England Vapors as well. A really tight-knit community, and they've been around since before I got into the whole RDA thing. So tight-knit group of people there. They kind of put me on to my first real decent setup. At the time I was using Cardo tanks. When I first met up with them, I was using Cardo tanks on a Alt Smoke Silver Bullet mod, which is, way back in the day now thinking about it, but at the time it was like pretty relevant technology. And after my first meeting with them, they showed me the Pro Tank 2 and just kind of turned me on to that kind of world. So yeah, that kind of moved me up in the vaping world. Between that meeting and the next meeting that I was able to attend, I ended up purchasing a Provari and a Pro Tank 2 and just upgraded my whole kit. I definitely stepped my game up, so the next time I was definitely ready to show off some of my new stuff. But yeah, shout out to everyone, everyone in New England that really vapes, all the vape groups that I'm a part of. 413 Vapors, anyone that's part of New England Cloud Chasers. Basically the entire New England scene is just awesome right now. Everyone's just super supportive and really awesome, especially the guys from Cold Fusion. When I showed up in Jersey, not even a word was said, and Jeff Donahue just handed me a 120, a Shock and Awe, which is my favorite, probably my favorite flavor of all time. So massive shout out to the Cold Fusion guys as well. And as I was saying earlier, JR Murphy from Half Moon Mods, Really great guy. Really appreciate all the support. He's going to be sending me a few more tips as well. I cannot get enough of these things. These are so amazing. I've never been a fan of the metal tips that come with any sort of mod or drip tip or anything like that. I've never been a fan of metal tips, so I always pop an acrylic one on, or a Delrin or something like that. And I was a huge fan back in the day of the little skinny little acrylic swirl kind of drip tips, and these are basically version 2.0, you know, a modernized version of those. And yeah, these are awesome. Super wide bore. This is for the competition Kennedy, and as you can see, it's a super wide bore, almost as wide as the original drip tip that comes with it. And they feel real nice, and they don't clank against your teeth like metal ones do. And I know it's kind of ironic because I have, you know, metal in my mouth already, and I'm complaining about metal drip tips, but I don't know, personal preference. Everyone's different. I also like that these don't get hot. That's one reason I really like these. So yeah. So you basically, yeah, just shout out to the entire New England vaping scene. Yeah, so again, I do want to mention Vapors.tv. I am doing a show on Vapors.tv every Friday night from 8 to 10 p.m. So I'll have a link in the description if you guys want to check that out. It's a real fun time. It's me with Jay DeLuco of Hingham Hill E-Liquid and Petey. Petey's a great guy, fun to hang out with, fun to drink with those guys. It's an all-around crazy time, you know. That's where I kind of let loose. You know me, I'm, you know, PC. I try not to offend anyone. I try not to step on any toes, and in there I just kind of let loose. So if you want to see Nick Uncensored, that's where you want to go. And again, I'll have the link in the description for you. So yeah, it's been kind of an up and down week. Nothing, you know, too bad to complain about this week, but there are some things that concern me, but we'll get to those later. I do want to start off with some positive news. I will be doing a battery safety course, or battery safety, how do you want, seminar? I don't know what you would really call it. I'm doing a 2-page spread in Vape magazine. For them, I'm doing a whole thing on battery safety. Basically, what I plan on doing is I'm gonna record a video of me explaining all about battery safety, and then I'm going to take that video and transcribe it into words, and then I will send them that with screenshots from the video. I've got a decent idea of what I'm going to be doing. Obviously, I teach the battery safety courses at all the VCC events, so I have a really good background knowledge of battery safety. I know what, you know, works, what doesn't, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and all that stuff. So I'm really excited to bring you guys that. I cannot wait for that opportunity. I think it's going to be big for me, and I think you guys would appreciate it. And I know you guys like seeing me in other places besides on YouTube. So yeah, that's a new thing that I'm going to be doing, and I can't wait to see it, you know, come to fruition. So what else is new? New stuff. Let's talk about some new stuff. So I mentioned it briefly on I believe it was my last vlog, about the Monster Mods Nosferatu. This is a prototype mod. Well, this is not the mod itself. This is just the container that it comes in, but it's a prototype mod that I've been working with Chris from Monster Mods to help him, you know, work out all the little kinks and everything. I showed you the version 1 last, I don't know, sometime. I showed you, it was in some video. I know it was in a video at some point. I think it was the last vlog. But anyways, this one is version 2, basically. Same kind of prototype. It doesn't look much different aside from the fact that the logo on here is not black anymore. It's kind of not a matte finish. Yeah, it is a matte finish. It's kind of a matte finish instead of polished like the rest of the mod. A little hard to see since the autofocus on my camera sucks, but as you can see, maybe Oh wow, you can barely even see that. It does say prototype on the back, and the switch says Nosferatu, which is going to be tough to read with the lighting, but yeah. It's also an ambigram, which means you can read it one way or the other way if you flip it 180 degrees. This thing is actually really, really cool. I have tested it with the builds on my Kennedys, and they look spectacular. I just want to mention the fact that this thing looks spectacular with a Kennedy sitting on top. I mean, absolutely flawless in my book. And the machining even matches up really nicely. Yeah, I've been testing them with these builds on them, and they're pretty low resistance. They're around 0.2-ish. So they're pretty decently low resistance, and I have been testing them all different tanks and atomizers and stuff like that on top as well. And everything that I've fit on there not only fits real flush and real clean, but it also fires up nice. I've never had a single problem with this version so far. Previously, my switch was getting a little hot, and only until I polished the whole thing, I really went at it with a polishing rag, is when I got a better feeling in the button. It didn't heat up on me, and it is magnetic switch. A nice resistance, about 20 pounds. I mean, I'm gonna do a whole video on this thing in maybe a week or so, so you'll definitely learn a little bit more about it then. But I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Chris from Monster Mods for hooking me up with this thing, and I'll be sure to show you guys that more in a little more detail later. So what else did I get that's new? I got the Ego 1 set up. The Kennedys are pretty relatively new. Let me know if you guys want to see a review of the IPv3 Li. Just leave a comment below if you want to see a review of that. I can do that if you guys want to see that. If not, if you don't care, then I'm just going to skip it, because that's my, workhorse mod. That's my put a tank on it or a dripper or something like that and just, rip it. I just bought that. I actually purchased that myself just for, my own reasons. I wanted temp control, and I still wanted high wattage, so that's the best of both worlds in my book. And I really didn't have the money for a Snow Wolf, so I went with something that I'm relatively familiar with. I already had the IPv4, as you saw in my review, so I was kind of familiar with the firmware. And from what I gather, there is a 200 watt update for this thing. So I'm going to try to get that done. It's really difficult to do that on a Mac. That's what I have. I have a Macintosh computer. Macintosh, I sound old. Apple computer, if you will. So I have a Mac, and it's super difficult to upgrade the firmware of those mods on a Mac. You actually have to download a copy of Windows or make an emulator run as Windows to even run the software that you have to load onto the IPv3. So it is a royal pain in the ass for me. I might end up just going over my parents' house or something like that and seeing if I can borrow a PC computer for a minute. The software is only a few megabytes, and it takes like probably total time. It takes more time finding the software than it does actually loading it onto the device. It literally takes 5 minutes to find the software, the actual firmware, and download it than it does to load it onto the device. Total time I think it took me after the last time I did it, after I downloaded everything, was about 30 seconds. You connect it to the computer, you load up the software, you load up the firmware, put it on the device. Pretty much 30 seconds, you're done. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. I think you guys might like to see that. I might even do a tutorial how to do that. Maybe that could be a video. Who knows? What do you guys think about extra videos? Do you like those kind of things? Do you want to see more of that kind of stuff? I'm definitely willing to record a few more of those types of videos. I like doing them. I like helping you guys out with the little things like coil cleaning and things like that. I mean, back in the day, I used to clean my coils a slightly different way than I do now. And that's another thing I kind of wanted to talk about is my old videos. I have one video that has over 30,000 hits, and that's my macro coil build video For some reason, that is the only video that has ever really gained a lot of traction for my channel, and it's got a lot of positive thumbs ups and it's got a lot of negative thumbs downs. I don't know why. I mean, I'm a nice guy for the most part. I don't really thumbs anything down on YouTube. I don't really leave nasty comments or anything like that, or rude comments. And maybe that's just me and how I was raised compared to the anonymous generation that is the internet nowadays. But personally, I think, I mean, I don't know what to think about that video. It's an older video, really poorly produced for me. You know, I think I've gotten a lot better with my production for my videos as of recently. And it has old information in it. My old wicking style, I definitely changed up my whole wicking style ever since I started using Japanese cotton. I just don't know how I feel about, you know, all the haters, you know. I asked Grim Green about that, and basically he's just like, you have to ignore them. You have to ignore the haters. Everyone, when they have that mask of, you know, anonymity between you and them, it's so easy to spread hate around on the internet. And it's like, why would you do that? You know, why would you take the time out of your day to go and hate someone on YouTube? I mean, just doesn't make any sense to me. But I have kind of put it in the back of my head. But basically what I plan on doing in the near future is, after a couple more Fresh Build Friday videos, I do want to go back and kind of do old school builds, basically very, very simple builds for anyone that's a newbie out there. And I want to give them the most current information that I have and the most, you know, knowledge that I have, because I've come a long, long way in the year and a half that I've been dripping. And I definitely know a lot more now about it than I did back then. So I want to give you guys the most relevant and current information and accurate information. And definitely the newer style of wicking that I do is a lot more helpful. And even on some of my, you know, older videos, a lot of my build videos, it's either a coil I've always just wanted to try, or just something I wanted to show you guys that I got that was new. I mean, I had my 20 gauge wire. I thought that I saw people online getting all these crazy gauge wires, like 18, 20 and stuff like that. And the biggest gauge I had ever used was 22. So I wanted to try out a 20 gauge build for you guys, and people were telling me I was wrapping too many wraps and all that because it had such a big ramp up time. And now that I know what I know, I understand, you know, that I was kind of misleading in my video, because I was judging 20 gauge wire and I was saying that I didn't like it as much because it was so hot, yet it had longer ramp up time. And, you know, it's not to say that I'm never going to use 20 gauge again. I've got 20 gauge in here right now. So, you know, it just, you got to give me a chance, you know, give me a chance to come out with another video. And that's kind of why I like doing these vlogs, where I can just kind of explain myself a little bit more, and any comments that I get that are, you know, negative or anything like that, I can really address things more personally rather than just replying. And honestly, I have the ultimate power as far as, you know, any of the haters go, so I can always delete your hate comments, you know. So most of the time I leave stuff that's somewhat relevant in, but if you're just gonna hate on me just to hate on me, then your comment's just gonna get deleted. So that doesn't mean go spam my comments box and make me do a lot of work, though. Please don't do that. I've got enough work to do as it is, honestly. So yeah, that's just kind of one thing that's been bugging me and bothering me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't want to be known for the wrong thing. Like that one video, I don't want people to judge me based on that one video alone. I have so much new content out, and it's much more relevant and accurate, and who knows where we'll be as an industry a year from now. You know, everything changes so quickly. It's like, how can you stay relevant? And YouTube videos, you know, you have to kind of look at the upload date and just kind of judge the video based on the upload date, because everything is so new. It's like, you know, maybe a year ago I said, oh, well, there's no need for 30 watts, you know, but obviously that's not true now. Everyone's going up to the 150, 200 watt range. But that's enough of that. Let's move on real quick. I did want to mention underage vaping. I was reading a blog today, and I actually reblogged it on my Tumblr, and it basically stated that underage vaping is not necessarily going to lead to, or nicotine use in youth is not going to lead to further cigarette smoking. So young vapors, if you get into vaping before you get into smoking, it's not going to lead to smoking. Um, I kind of agree and I kind of disagree with that, in the sense that I feel like if you're not planning on, smoking, that sounds stupid, but if you weren't even thinking about smoking to begin with, if you just want to pick up vaping as a hobby or to blow clouds or to do tricks, like, what's the point? You're putting chemicals into your body that are completely unnecessary. And I realize that we glamorize this industry so much. I mean, there's magazines out there about vaping. There's whole conventions about vaping. But, these are things that a lot of smokers need to be attending rather than the cloud chasers or the trickers or anything like that. That's why I really love the VCC events, because it's more about the smokers that are trying to quit smoking rather than the tricks and the clouds and the products and the models and blah, 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 blah. It's really about the industry in itself, too. And we kind of have to take a step back and look at ourselves as an industry and say, what are we really doing? As far as the underage vaping thing goes, I would never, if I was in my, 8th grade class again, I would probably never think about picking up vaping as a habit because my friends were doing it. But then again, maybe that's just, my adult brain thinking that, it's hard to be young. It's hard to be a kid nowadays, and there's so much stimulation around you, and your attention span is, as short as a goldfish or something like that. Every time you turn around, there's something new going on with this instant gratification and YouTube thing. I mean, you want to skip an ad, you skip the ad, you go right to the video. You can jump around the video. It's instant playback. And this is going to make me sound really old, but back in my day, when you had like cassette tapes or something like that, you couldn't just skip to the next song. And just, that's how it is nowadays. Everyone wants to be flashy and show off, and I don't get it. This is coming from me as an old school vapor. I like to call myself an old school vapor because I have an old school soul. I still have all my older equipment, my Ego pens and my 510 stick batteries and everything like that. I don't judge people based on what they're using for gear. I don't care what you use, as long as you're using it to quit smoking or to get off tobacco products. Yeah, I don't care what you use. You can use whatever you want. As long as you're not smoking cigarettes or you're cutting down on smoking cigarettes, that's good for you. It's too bad that this industry has become so attractive in a way. Honestly, I wouldn't be anywhere if this industry wasn't as big as it is. But it's just the fact that it looks cool. To the outsider, it does look cool. And I can see where they're coming from with that. You open up a magazine and you see vape models. You see on Instagram constantly, all you see is just the cool kids vaping, like tattooed, bearded, whatever, things in their ears. People like me, I've been called like a stereotypical cloud chaser. And in a way, I guess I agree with that, but I am who I am. I was who I was before I got into vaping, and I just so happen to fit the profile. I think it's all just a coincidence personally, but other people look at me and they go, oh, he's trying to be this person. He's trying to be that person. He's trying to do this. He's trying to do that. You know what? I'm trying to be me. I'm just trying to live, I am who I am, in the words of Popeye. I'm just trying to have a good time and live my life to the fullest, while I'm around. That's all we can ever do, right? So yeah, that's my spiel about underage vaping. As far as the industry, that's another thing I wanted to talk about. That is that's what I was talking about earlier. The industry with the marketing. We have some vendors out there, like you saw in Jersey, the Sour Batch e-liquid. They're not the only culprits. There's a bunch of them out there that I think are just as guilty for looking like they are marketing to kids. And that's to say, you have bright, flashy, colorful packaging, um, cartoon characters, logos that look almost identical to candy or, anything. I guess people try to say it's nostalgia, but I'm going to have to disagree. Yeah, it's too close for comfort for me. And honestly, at this point, that's the last thing we need. The last thing we need is bad media coverage, accidents to happen, people getting hurt, and people looking in on our industry and seeing bad things. I recently went to a hearing in Boston for a bunch of different bills that had to do with vaping, and the first person that was anti-vaping went up to the little table that they were at, and they had two giant bags of Sour Patch Kids, and he had a little goodie bag, and he gave it to every single one that was on the panel, and he basically said, "Go ahead, open it, smell it. What does it smell like?" He handed them the bags of Sour Patch Kids. He said, "Look, this is the same thing as that. This looks identical to that. Kids are going to think this is bad." And I didn't see it for myself. I didn't see it with my own eyes, but I'm speculating that he had Sour Batch e-liquid in those bags. And does that make our industry look bad? Yes. Does that make our industry look guilty? Yes. Should we stop this? Yes. I believe that with our power, the vapors' power, we can all come together and just kind of agree that we should probably tiptoe around these issues. There's no sense in coming up with a flashy logo that's going to that might appeal to youth. You just stop it. If any companies are out there watching, cut the crap, because I don't want to lose this industry. And it's bad enough California is fighting an uphill battle right now with the resurgence of the bill that could just kill the entire industry in California. And everyone knows that California is the hub of this industry. So therefore, we need to lead by example, or they need to lead by example, and just kind of straighten up and fly right, because if we don't, then this industry is going to go away, and I won't stand for that. The e-liquid industry is going to go underground, and you're going to see bootleg e-liquid. But let's just take Jay DeLuco, Hingham Hill. There we go. Simple as that. That's all you need on your e-liquid. Just the simple warnings, child protective caps there with a seal. This actually came to me completely sealed. You could hear it crack when it's broken. It's child resistant, and the label is very plain and simple. You don't need a bunch of flashy cartoons and bright colors to make or sell your e-liquid. Your e-liquid should sell itself, and that's how the industry was a couple years ago. There was just plain white printer labels on plastic bottles. Nowadays, everyone's demanding glass. Everyone's demanding, testing, which I completely agree with. Definitely, if you're an e-liquid manufacturer, testing is just should not even be a question in your mind. You got to get your stuff batch tested. It does not cost that much, and that way you give your customers a little bit of peace of mind that they can kind of fall back on and say, look, my e-liquid is diacetyl and acetylpropanol free. There you go. There's the test results. There's the information. As far as delving out that information to the general public, I'd say keep it to the retailers, keep it to the shop owners. let them know, yes, we do test our e-liquid. It is diacetyl and AP free. Done. There you go. They can tell their customers that. Do I think every e-liquid should have its own spec sheet of what chemicals are in it? No. And the reason I say that is because if that information was available to the general public, then people are going to nitpick and look, oh, well, this one has a certain concentration of this chemical, and this one has a higher concentration, so we should stick with the one that's lower. And it's not necessarily that those chemicals are even going to be that much worse for you in those two concentrations. It's just the fact that that's the way a lot of people's brains work. They see a lower number, they say, okay, that's a chemical. A lower number, that's probably better for you. And I mean, look at the whole thing with light cigarettes versus regular cigarettes. They couldn't advertise that one was better than the other. They could only, and they can't even say it's a light cigarette anymore. That's how far that industry has gone. And now we can't really say whether or not one e-liquid is going to be better than another one based on a certain concentration of a certain chemical. So I don't think that information should be released to the public. I think the vendors should know, and I think they should have that level of, opacity where if someone asks, you can give them a straight answer and say, yes, all our flavors are diacetyl and acetylpropanol free. Done. That should be the end of the statement right there. So that's pretty much it as far as the negative things that I have to talk about today. I'm sorry I rambled on for so long, but I just wanted to get my opinions out there. And I really don't mention that in a lot of my other videos. I mean, honestly, you guys can vape whatever you want. I could care less, as long as you're, avoiding those stinkies and you're being a good vapor, So yeah, let's wrap it up here in a few minutes. I'm just gonna have a vape. So just to kind of wrap it up, I do want to, thank you guys so much for all the support on all my videos. I really do appreciate it. Every little comment, thumbs up, subscription, really helps me out a whole bunch. Don't forget to check out my other social media sites as well. I post all the time on Instagram, all my latest little coil builds and things that I'm up to during the weeks, especially when I'm just hanging out at the vape shop. So yeah, you can definitely keep up with me there and on my Facebook page as well. You can follow me on Twitter if you would like. I post a lot of my Instagram stuff to there as well, so you can check that out if you don't have Instagram. What else? You can follow my blog on Tumblr. All the links are, again, in the description. I just hit 10,000 followers on my Tumblr blog, which is amazing. Thank you guys so much for all the support. I really do appreciate it. It really does help. So yeah, that's about it for this week. I'm sure I'll have some more information next week, and I'm sure I'm going to start a firestorm in the comments. So be nice in the comments, behave or else you'll get deleted. And that about does it for now. I am still kind of working on a little basement studio in the new house here, and I'm working on this room as well. I mean, right behind me here you can see a box right there. So I'm still kind of unpacking and living my life out of boxes, but one day I'll get there. Anyways, it's late, so I'm going to bed. This has been Nick for Spin Fuel. Check out spinfuel.com for lots more of my videos, as well as Smoke and Joy and Spin Fuel videos. And as always, vape on.